before this change, but there was mention that there was another pad site by the Lowe's, which is proposed to be constructed and was previously approved opposite the Menin arena, the Menin ice skating arena. There is I do think it was approved already, a Wawa convenience store with a gas station, as part of the Lowe's site. So that's going in, I'll say, if you're on Menin's property, looking at Lowe's, it's to the right side, closer to where the signalized intersection will be installed. That'll be the intersection of Menin Drive and the new development that's gonna service Lowe's on the other side. So it's closer to that intersection of Wawa gas convenience store, but I think there's another pad site there that the modifications that they made to the ordinance to allow drive-throughs could, have a restaurant, but I think that sits kind of behind, I need to confirm that, but I think that sits kind of behind the Wawa. It's more into the site.
Are you calling it the Lowe's site? Is that definite? Because we had an engineer at the last meeting here who actually is very familiar, who's representing another application, which is very coincidental. And he said that wasn't final. It could be anything still.
I haven't talked to Stan about that, but my understanding is it's final. I've seen equipment over there. I thought it was going into construction. I think they're, doing some site cleanup, but everything I've heard that it's moving forward.
I mean, with Lowe's.
Yeah.
So
we did have a conversation though, just on a sidebar, going back to the discussion that you had in reference to the site, I want to say is the Blanchard site, which is at the intersection.
That's my second.
Okay.
So you could hold off.
Then I won't go.
That's a whole different topic in a way, but.
Before we get to the second point, the only thing I'd add to what Jim said in terms of the permitted uses and the drive-throughs and the convenience with gas that has already been built on the Hanover side, and apparently there's a second approval for a Wawa because we have the quick check, is that in Morris, when we were considering uses for Colgate, we basically made a decision that we did not want to encourage a convenience store with gas sales on the Colgate site, because I can tell you that the developer was looking to do that and wanted to do that, and it was I think both the planning board and the governing body's position that they did not feel that was fitting within the kind of retail shopping center that we were looking for. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
So the property, the retail that we've approved, does it allow for drive-through? Even if it's a restaurant drive-through?
I think that there is a pharmacy drive-through that's part of the approval, if I'm not mistaken, Jim?
That is my recollection, and it was also anticipated the bank would be in there with the drive-through, but I'd have to look as far as like a restaurant, some type of fast food. I know there were some discussions, but I think we were trying to stay away from that.
I tend to agree. I'd like to double check that, Rick, but I tend to agree with Mr. Slate, because we were looking for a certain type of development and retail tenant mix, and we weren't kind of favorably disposed towards the convenience with gas and a lot of fast food restaurants on the pad sites up front.
We're getting it, in effect, it's just going to be across the street.
Yeah, but which we have no control over.
Right. And then, of course, there's that proposal at the corner of Hanover and Speedway.
I have to tell you, I took a look at that resolution. Jim shared it with me. I know you wanted us to take a look at it, and I was kind of just surprised. And again, one of the things that's not in the resolution, I didn't get a chance to look at, is how big that Blanchard site is. But one of the things that struck me was that they allowed the buildings within 20 feet of Hanover.
Well, that wasn't what I was referring to, but okay, that's item number 2. Are you ready to go on to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just throwing out that on the corner of Hanover and Speedwell, there's a proposal to have a convenience store gas station.
Oh.
So we're getting a whole bunch of these now. We got Quick Check, maybe this Wawa, and then
The Royal Farms.
Oh, the Royal Farm.
That's the zoning board, the zoning board of adjustment application.
Right.
Anyone can make an
So
application.
anyway, we're getting a lot of those,
Yeah.
evidently.
And by the way, that's not just sort of endemic to Hanover and Morris Township. That's happening throughout the market. And part of what's happening is that a lot of the operators, Wawa is basically a Pennsylvania business. They have a lot of southern Jersey presence. They're making a big push up north. And the applicant who's before the zoning board at Speedwell is from, I think, Boston, and they're making a push down south. And Quick Check kind of almost beat Wawa to the northerly territory. So I'm seeing it throughout northern New Jersey.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the Blanchard site. So the question is very noticeable that the new buildings that Hanover approved are very close to the street. So it was obvious that there was a setback variances involved. And so
Quite a large one too.
Yeah, yeah. So Jim got us the resolution of approval, and we discussed a little bit at the last meeting. And so really the question I had for you is, what do you think about that? I mean, I can kind of understand their reasoning that, you know, there's an advantage to putting the parking in the back and maybe have a nice building up close. But, you know, what is the best thing, and particularly for the residential areas in Morris Township across the street?
So, I mean, if you look at a lot of the newer zoning schemes, and I think this is really location specific as to whether it works or it doesn't work. A lot of communities are looking to not have the parking in the front yard. I mean, there's some consensus that parking in the front yard is unsightly, and it's better to have a building closer to the property line or a street wall building with the parking in the rear. One of the problems with that is that a lot of retailers, and these are retail tenants as opposed to office tenants, do not want parking in the rear. They want it in the front for convenience sake, and some won't even locate on retail commercial sites unless the parking's in the front. My own opinion here is that, this is just my own personal opinion, is
As a
that,
professional planner.
yeah, no, is that on
We haven't qualified.
a street like Hanover Avenue, which is a heavily traveled thoroughfare, you know, 4 lanes in sections, fairly high speed limit. I'm not sure you want to have the street wall, close to street wall buildings within 20 feet of the property line. I mean, that works in a setting, in a more downtown setting, or even a suburban context where you don't have that kind of traffic. So I was kind of surprised that they approved it within 20 feet, which is why I said, Rick, I wonder if that had anything to do with the size of the site, and they just, you know, basically had no choice to get that kind of square footage close to the highway. But my sense is they wanted the parking in the back. That's my sense. But that works in some locations, it doesn't work in others. 20 feet's closer than freestanding pad sites. I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
My own
Unfortunately, we
opinion is,
never-
I get it, I get what they're looking for, I'm not quite sure it's what's desired on Hanover Avenue. I don't know, Jim, if you wanna add anything from your
And
perspective.
just a thought too, Mr. Phillips, we were never informed, this board was not informed of it, so we didn't have a chance to discuss it in advance, and maybe even go to,
Yeah.
a Hanover meeting
Yeah.
to give them our point of view, and particularly to protect perhaps our residential neighbors across
Yeah.
the street. So I understand your point of view in terms of, kind of that environment. Do you have the same, what about the fact that there are residences across the street? Do you think it'd be better for them to be looking out into the parking lot, cars going in and out? Or maybe in this case, it's okay to have a building that close?
I think from the residential perspective, because it's a fairly significant right-of-way, between the residences and where that building is, there's probably either way adequate light, air, and open space. But I still think that, given the fact that it's a 4-lane, heavily trafficked highway, I'm wondering if you did 20 feet throughout the entire stretch, what it would look like. I think it would be right on top of the highway, and maybe right on top of those residences. Here you just have, this is the only building, I think, that's that close. Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just have a question. Because Hanover Avenue is heavily trafficked and accidents do happen, with a building 20 feet from the road, isn't it quite possible that a car could?
I mean, there's a safety, if you're
run
asking,
into
is there a
that's
potential
public
safety
issue,
concern?
Sounds like to me.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's not
they're,
just the building, whether they design it to have an outdoor seating area.
Mhm.
Make it-
Oh, so,
In the
yeah,
corner.
and it's like maybe a sidewalk, so let's take out some pedestrians too.
I mean, that may work on the green in Morristown, but, you know, that
Yeah,
doesn't
that doesn't-
work on a 50-mile-an-hour roadway. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the motivation was, because I never saw the physical site plan, I just saw the resolution.
Well, I think the motivation was in their resolution.
To do the parking in the back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that they felt that was a better alternative.
But then, why would they just do it, if that was the vision, Rick, for the corridor, why would they just do it for one property, which sort of isn't the dominant property along the whole
Yeah.
stretch? Because everything else is set back, except for the pad sites.
Right.
So I'm not, it was kind of strange as to why would they just do it for the one site? I mean, I don't
So
know.
you don't recommend that we change our
No, I do not.
ordinances to allow that?
I do not.
A layout conforming to the setbacks with parking in the front of the buildings would look like a run-of-the-mill strip mall and is a less attractive alternative. That's the.
I mean, that's what the applicant pitched.
Yeah.
You know, and they bought into it,
Yeah.
you know.
And one of the ways I looked at it was, and you weren't here when we were discussing this
No, I
last meeting, that, you know, if I lived across the street and I had to look out onto something across the street, you know, you knew something was gonna go in there, maybe I would have preferred to have the parking in the back. Because, you know, have the cars pulling in all day, all night long, maybe it's better to look at the building.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one further question, this, and this is the Blanchard site that you're referencing, what's the frontage on the road, how long is that?
I don't know if it was in here, because I was trying to see how big a site was, and I didn't find.
3.63
Was it-
acres.
Where did you find that?
3.63 acres vacant.
I mean, if I had to guess, I'm gonna say 150 to 200 feet, you know, in that range.
For the building or just
The
the lot?
frontage or something?
The lot frontage on
Just
Hanover.
the frontage on
I mean,
Hanover.
Yeah, it's a total guess, but
Yeah.
in that range.
And then the rest of the stuff is set up as normal with parking in the front and the buildings set up?
Not on that side. Oh,
No, I'm just saying, the rest of their developments though are that way so far.
Right, right. The rest of them have lots of big parking.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pad sites, you know, to the front, on those other big sites like ShopRite, or
Yeah.
you're down where the Quick Check is, you know, but the main body of the store is, you know, to the rear.
My own opinion, again, not to belabor it, is that these kind of close to street wall buildings on a heavily traveled thoroughfare, to me, don't make sense. They make all the sense in the world in a different context, and I get it, and I get the parking behind the building, I get all that, but I'm not sure that I'd advocate this prototype along the entire stretch of East Hanover.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But how about as an exception for this site?
Well, you know, it's,
If
I
we
guess.
had the opportunity to discuss it before it was
Yeah.
approved, would you recommend that maybe we should go talk to Hanover Township about this? And I know that's unreal.
Yeah, I'd be curious more than anything else as to why they favored it just on this one site, and what the logic was, other than, you know, keep the parking behind it, but for the bulk of your, you know, stretch of East Hanover, where you kinda see it in your cone of vision, it's just one little portion of it, so I'm not quite sure, you know, how that works, but it's close. That building is close.
It was unanimous.
And they probably, my guess, and again, I'm conjecturing, that the residences across the street are mostly rentals, and, you know, the owner is getting what he wants out of the house, or they want to get out of the house, and so probably no one from the public, in terms of Morris Township residents, were there. I don't think there was any mention of that in the resolutions or in the
I
word.
don't recall anything about it.
No reference to objectors, right?
Right.
If that's what you're
Right,
referring
that's
to,
what I mean.
or public at all.
It's just a shame we didn't have a chance to talk about it before. It would have been an interesting conversation. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Phillips. That's what I was looking for. I don't know, board members, any other comments or thoughts on that? Okay, is there anything else?